Hey guys, welcome to Capital Convo. I am Laura, your host. Today I will be with Daniella and Bea. We are three social media managers that love talking about socials, love talking about social trends, social media, and much, much more. So let's get cracking. Today we want to be talking about the Mayor of London's video that was on social media. So guys, have you actually watched this video?
I have. It's been everywhere.
Yeah, I've seen a couple people either reposting it to their stories on like Instagram or just actually a couple of social media platforms.
Yeah, I saw it on TikTok first. And what were your initial thoughts about the video when you first saw it?
I think initially I was thinking, because it was people of influence kind of that I was seeing it on their stories. So I obviously was like, what is this about? Mm-hmm. And a lot of it was praising it basically. So I wanted to see it. I did think that it was sending a good message. It was weird because I felt like what was going on in the video obviously I've experienced, and I'm sure like all my friends have experienced, but it's weird to see it as as a skit done by the government. It's just I wasn't really thinking that's what it was going to be about.
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel like the first thing I thought of was, wow, like this is great that it's on socials and it's making awareness towards the topic, but at the same time, obviously I saw it primarily on TikTok. That was the platform that I saw it on the most. Mm-hmm. And I felt that serious type of topic on a sort of unserious app wasn't, I feel like, the best way to portray it, especially because the way that they were performing the acts of, say, the beginning of violence towards women or whatever, and
abuse.
I feel like that personally it wasn't to an extent that is normal. I feel like it was played down a lot, and I feel like it was a much more serious topic to talk about, and it should have been portrayed in that way a bit more.
You think it was a bit subtle?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's for socials and there's lots of children on the apps and stuff. They don't want to be like in your face, but I do think it is a serious subject, and I do think that it should be portrayed in that way a lot more than just someone being verbally abusive towards someone. Obviously that is not okay in itself, but I feel like the whole message behind it was to stop and prevent violence against women, and I feel like that was, yes, a small snippet of what could happen, but not to the extent that is happening today in society.
I do agree with you. I feel like it could have definitely, it was more played down and a lot more subtle than my personal experiences with it, and I'm sure a lot of other people's. I know you spoke about it briefly before, that it was very played down. I get why they had the video and they put it through, TikTok and Instagram, because obviously that's what everyone uses now, and it's a wide reach, and especially it was definitely aimed at a young adult demographic. So I get the thought behind it in terms of that and in terms of making it reach as far as possible. But I do agree with you that it felt a little bit forced, a little bit like they're trying to, because it's such a common topic of conversation at the minute, and there's so much around it, which is obviously a really good thing, more than there has been in the past. I feel like they kind of just jumped on that, but it felt very inauthentic to me personally. Because
do you think that was anything to do with what Laura is saying, like the platform that it was on or that you saw it on? Because I think especially on TikTok, if you'd seen that jammed between like a dancing video and like a comedy sketch, I mean, you'd probably scroll past it. I don't know. But unless you saw the view count, because sometimes, when you're like, 6 million, let me just see what this is. If I hadn't seen it on Instagram already, posted to people's stories, and then I saw it on TikTok, I don't know whether I would have kept watching.
Yeah. I mean, I saw it after actually scrolling just through on the For You page, right? And I scrolled past it at first, and then I saw, the Mayor of London video, etc. So I was like, okay, this is interesting. Let me have a look. Let me listen and watch it. And at first I was a bit like, what's going on here? But obviously the message behind it is great, and I love that it's been pushed out on social media, especially because everyone in today's society is constantly on all the different platforms.
Yeah, for sure.
It is the best way to push it out. But I do think that with the subject, as we've said, is it could have been pushed out a lot more, informally, but like still, promoting the fact that is a big topic and it's very serious, rather than on TikTok and Reels and stuff. People are making funny videos on how to change clothes and dance and funny sketches. I feel like that wasn't the best route to go down.
Like you mentioned earlier, about there was a Australian advert that you saw when you were in Australia.
Yeah, the government ones.
And you said that you saw that at the cinema.
Yeah, they post it like as if it's, you know, we see like film previews of like previous films. They post like the government videos on there at the cinema for like everyone to see. And it is weird because I guess you're about to watch a film and then it's like quite serious. But at the same time, I feel like that you get every age group at a cinema and you're like sitting there to watch videos and you're in this massive thing, and it did have a big impact anyway. I was quite shocked, but maybe that's just because I'm used to like, you know, Marvel Marvel movies.
I think with that one, like when I was talking about authenticity, that one felt more authentic because it related more to an actual experience, and their message wasn't so much. My biggest issue with this video is the whole enough trope with it.
That's enough.
Like, what do you mean enough?
It wasn't don't just do that. Don't do that at all. It was that's enough of abuse that you've given her. That's enough verbal
stop
abuse.
Now
yeah,
after
stop
already
now.
doing it.
Whereas it shouldn't be a thing at all. It shouldn't be you need to stop this. It should be in people's minds that they shouldn't be treating women like this. It's women, men, anyone that is getting verbal abuse in general. It's just not okay. Like, and I feel that's what they didn't really push out that great.
I think it's weird because I 100% agree with both you. I feel like what they were trying to almost say is that they know that it's difficult because, you know, there was that boy looking in the mirror and he had this internal struggle as whether he should say anything or not. And I felt like what they were trying to say is even if you're having that internal dilemma, saying it is better than not saying it, but it almost came across as late's better than never, which is obviously true, but not at all, or before is better than after.
I feel like as a female in today's day and age, you're kind of taught to really appreciate the bare minimum, and that kind of that to me, that to me was just the epitome of that. That was like enough. So like we should be grateful now that
endure that.
Yeah, exactly. Go through it for all of this time, but now we've put out a reel or a TikTok saying enough. You know, like a minute video, and I don't know. For me, it's frustrating because, like I say, it is definitely, we should be glad that these conversations are being had and it's being brought to attention by official bodies.
Yeah.
But, like, that's just throwing us a bone, really, in the scheme of things. I mean, that is the bare minimum. That's enough.
I agree.
Tell your friends.
I definitely think that the way that in our society and from my own experience that this happens a lot, like verbal abuse from men, just randomly in a normal day. It's not like as extreme as actually violence and except like mental abuse or whatever, but it's like in society for me, if a man walked past and spoke to me like that, I would shrug it off because in our society we are made to feel like that is the normal, and obviously it's not the normal. So they are portraying that, but they're not portraying the fact that people shouldn't be saying that in the first place. It shouldn't even be started with those violence acts, as in like with their speech, their you know, mental abuse in general. Like every single thing should not be okay. And I feel like the boy halfway through only realizing to be like, oh, just letting you know that's not okay, like I need to say something. It shouldn't even be a thing at the beginning, especially because we're so used to it now that we probably would have shrugged it off, where she's got in the car crying. I feel like,
but that's what I loved so much about that Australian advert that you showed us, Bea, because it was, their message was nip it in the bud from a young age, and it should never be okay, and women should never be brought up in a society where you are taught that you will be disrespected and things will happen and you do learn to shrug it off. We are now so far gone at our age, obviously for future generations, who knows, but at our age right now, we're very far gone with that. The fact that we do shrug it off and we go, okay, well, we would have never got in the cab crying because that's not that bad.
Bitches.
Yeah.
Anyway, what I was gonna say though was talking again about the younger generation. Do you both agree that people who are younger, especially young males, young females, they should all be educated a lot earlier on because of the fact that they get to be on social media from an early age?
Yeah.
I think that social media especially does portray things that are quite violent, and video games, etc. like this, and they're all on socials. They've got phones, everything. Like I don't remember having a phone when I was 12, 13, and I see people in year 6, year 5 with iPhones playing games and Snapchatting their friends and stuff, and I think that's crazy. Like,
do you know what's weird though is that whilst I agree, I do think obviously there is something to being able to see all of those things and go on your phone and see all that kind of stuff and then like potentially replicate that in your real life. But there's also things, obviously, that argument's been said about violence in video games for like time. But I feel like part of it also, it's not necessarily that they have the availability of all of that negative like energy and negative like views and videos of things. I think partially because they're always on their phones, they don't go out and like experience it, and they don't go out enough. Like they see everything online, they don't go out enough to have like a sister, mum or girl at an early age be like, what are you doing? Like them actually getting to say it enough in public for people to say to them, what are you doing? Because they're online all the time seeing it. That's the only reassurance and confirmation that they get over and over again seeing it online. But if they started doing that stuff from an early age, because they're doing it younger and younger, I was saying to you, like, I have friends that work at all boys schools and they've got year 8s, like that young, abusing female staff members at all. And I'm like, I wouldn't have dreamed of doing that in like any age actually, but that young is insane to me. But I think it's just because everyone's on their phone and at home and online, they don't, if you were out on the street and you said like at 12 and you said to a woman on the street like, oh, you look fit, or like something just completely derogatory, but like they'd be like, control your child, what is wrong with your child?
But then on the flip side of that, do you not think that if they were to do that, I don't know, maybe because it is just very common for women to be spoken to like that in a passing comment. Obviously, if it was like a 40-year-old woman and a 12-year-old, you'd be a bit like, okay, what are you doing? But I don't know, maybe they would just shrug it off. Maybe it would be the same thing. Because if we are saying that we do that now to people of our own age and whatever, who's to say that kid's mum, say he was out with his mum and he said something about another woman, who's to say that the mum would be like, would even notice that was a big deal, because it's so ingrained in her head that things like that are normal. Do you know what I mean? Some people that is the case. I'm talking very subtle things here. I'm not saying obviously like catcalling, and there's more subtle ways of being derogatory to women. There's certain like ideologies that we have that are just, women are just so disrespected, like, but on such a subtle level that even women will do it to themselves, if that makes sense.
I agree. And what I was going to say was, do you think that from this video that the mayor has put out, that the way that he was speaking to the woman is normalized? Do you think that is something that happens all the time, or do you think that is just a certain amount of people? And another thing is, do you think that from seeing someone speak to a woman like that, especially in the street, you can then think to yourself, oh, he must be abusive to women, or he must be someone who may potentially hurt a woman in the future, or have violence towards a woman? Do you think that is normal?
No, but I think because of what you said, because it is normalized, that, and even the guy in the video, I think he says like, I'm only joking, man. Like it isn't necessarily representative of them going on to be physical abusive. It 100% could be, like that's for sure, that could be the starting point for that person, but it's also kind of used as a joke because it's normalized and it is commonplace. It's a joke among guys, groups of guys, to tease women, and partially it is, I guess what the video is trying to say is like, because it isn't called out, it's almost then accepted. It's that, you know, that common thing, if you don't say anything, you're for it type of thing. I guess it's trying to say that. It's like, if you don't correct someone or say, hey, look, that's not okay, it's then they assume it's fine.
And it normalizes the fact that they can speak to women like that, etc.
Yeah, but it's weird because I feel like it's strange in my own head, but it's just my own experience. I find it weird that it wouldn't be something that you would say.
Exactly, like even the fact that he had to have that whole monologue in
he
the
had
mirror.
Like a mental dilemma. I don't get
like,
it. Bro.
Surely it would just...
I can't do it. No, bro. Like, just tell him that he's wrong,
surely
okay?
that would be your gut reaction, to be like, ugh. Like, what are you doing? Like, that shouldn't be a inner turmoil of like, oh my God, should I say something or should I not? Like,
But that's
Yes.
the male bravado thing, though, isn't it? It's like you don't correct your mates. You don't tell them that you all gotta be. You can't like cut your mates down in front. Like, I don't know. It's a weird thing that I feel like it's always been. It's the same. It's kind of what I was saying to you about like the mental health thing. They don't talk about their feelings. They don't talk about emotions. They don't say the hard personal stuff, which is, I don't believe that's the right thing to say, or I think you're being rude or offensive. It's like, if you're not joking, you're not like being banter, you're not talking about sports or women. That's the stereotype of like every male conversation. And if your mate was doing something, I appreciate that sometimes it is quite hard to be like, hey, look, mate, don't do that, because you're being confrontational, potentially, depending on how your friend's going to react, by saying don't do that, because you're basically telling them off.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is a nice thing to do, but at the same time, that it's not very nice that your friend's doing that in the first place. So
I'll be completely honest. If I were a boy, if I was a boy,
Beyonce, yeah.
And I saw that video,
Yeah.
it wouldn't change how I acted. Whether I already pulled my friends up on things like that or I didn't, I don't think that would like speak to my conscience and make me be like, I have to. What happens if your idol reposted that and made a post, like let's say Cristiano Ronaldo reposted that government video and wrote, this couldn't be more true, I always have to check my friends because I cut these people out. I don't know, but is like, obviously the video itself obviously saying like, yeah, that wouldn't change my feelings, and I think for sure, because the subtlety of it, like you're saying, it isn't super extreme. But like potentially the awareness, I think, is what we were saying, is the positive effect. But I don't think one video is gonna do anything.
But this is the thing. This is what I was coming back to, is that I have experienced domestic abuse, and I've experienced it in front of his friends as well. Yeah. And there was moments when I looked back and I thought, wow, like you actually did nothing. Like you literally saw it happen and you didn't say a single thing. And I feel like with this video, it is portraying that, oh, should I say something? Should I not? But it's like verbal abuse, yes, like that should be where it stops anyway. You should not even be doing that. But when it comes to a female then being actually physically abused and you're not saying anything, then how is that normal?
How extreme does it have to get
but
before you say something? This
is what I was going to say, was that I feel like with the video being pushed out on socials, I feel like the video should have been more towards the violence towards women, because I feel that is more drastic. It's more gonna stick in your head than someone being like, oh, why are you not talking to me, or this, like, yes, that is not. But don't you think that's
so sad that for women now, like that, for you, someone talking to you like that unprovoked is
light work.
Exactly. It's light. Like, it has to be a physical thing for us to even be like, okay, like I know you're saying that obviously, so someone shouldn't be talking to someone like that in the first place, but like the fact that you're saying it didn't hit home that much, and we're all basically agreeing that it wasn't that big a deal.
It's relatable for sure.
It's relatable, but for you to say like it should have been more extreme. That in itself is the problem, because we're like, oh well, yeah, no, that's not that big a deal, we're used to that, so yeah, let's focus on something that's really bad.
What I want to know also, based off what Laura said, is when like the friends don't react and like know if like you've been physically abused, verbally abused, if you confront the friends of said guy that's done that, the excuses that you get from them as to why they didn't say anything are outrageous. Yeah. They make no sense. They're like, yeah, well, that's just James. That's just Will. That's just Ben.
Unquote, that's none of my business.
Yeah, that's none of my business. It's like, it's your friend. How is that not your business? You're surely, like, I see my friends, I was saying this to you guys, as an extension of me. Exactly. If they're out there doing embarrassing things and I'm hanging out with them, that's embarrassing. I'm having to hang out with someone that makes me look bad. But they clearly don't see it that way, because I've been like on nights out with many a guys where they've said shit about their friend, but they're like, yeah, well, that's just him. Like, he cheats on his girlfriend on nights out. Yeah, he does like touch girls up in the bathroom. He does like walk past girls and like squeeze their ass.
But then do you not?
And they're just like,
scary.
It's gross. It's so gross. And then they make jokes about it, because I'm like, don't you think that's gross? And they're like, oh, you know, you like it. And I'm like, who are? I'm telling you, I don't. Yeah. Like, I don't.
But do you know what? Even like maybe that for a guy. I mean, I'm not one, so I wouldn't know. But maybe that's like...
Are you sure?
Maybe that's like an embarrassment thing of like, well, if I say that's just how they are, then I don't have I remove myself from it. I don't
no
have
strings
to,
attached.
like, that's them. That's just what they do. That's their problem. I don't know about it. I don't agree with it, but that's just how they are.
But why
Like,
don't you want to have an opinion? Like, that's...
I know.
Because sometimes they give an opinion and they go, I'm not like that, but that's just him. And I'm going...
But you're obviously okay with it
Yeah.
because you haven't said anything.
Yeah.
You are trash. Anyway, what I was going to say is, do you think that video overall, the violence strategy that the mayor is coming up with is good enough to protect women? Do you think
No.
that is...
As a start point, I don't see the harm in it, is what I'm going to say.
I agree.
I think it could, like, all of us have said, it could have been done more with more effect.
Yeah.
And potentially, if this is one of many videos that he's going to put out, maybe
Fingers
it will, for all I know.
You know
I
what?
think it's a good starting point, to be honest. I don't want to slag it off too much because
No.
I appreciate them bringing it to the
yeah,
front and
same.
centre.
I hope it is, so that I'm wrong about what I'm about to say, but it feels like we've been breadcrumbed because it's such a thing at the moment. People are talking about it. People are starting to, hopefully, be more aware and more conscious. It kind of felt like the mayor jumped on that and was like, well, let's get a video out. People will really like me because I'm putting out a video that hasn't been done a lot.
And females are the majority of the population,
Yeah.
like in general.
Yeah. So
Votes-wise, I mean.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Pretty good bet.
But it's just exactly. It's like, okay, cool. What now? Like you've given us this breadcrumb. You've put a video out. Thank you. Appreciate
You've written
that.
a letter. Where's the book,
You've
mate?
you've told boys to talk to their friends.
Where is the book?
Like I hope that is the start of something actually meaningful.
I want
because-
some people to get on board because of it.
Yeah.
I want some big names in male idolizations. I want some big...
definitely.
But maybe that's what they should have focused on because
Maybe that's what... I don't know, maybe that's what
influencers
they're gonna do.
and big figures, that's what people listen to in
Get the
in
mayor
this
on a
day and age.
podcast with Stephen Bartlett.
Right,
Get some
listen.
discussion happening.
do you want to be on our podcast? Because we'll talk to
Shut
you
up.
about it.
Yeah, mayor. We want some words. Why weren't we in those meetings?
But also,
Tell me.
just do you guys, from how much you've seen the video shared and things like that, what percentage would you say were female sharing that video?
The majority.
Yeah, I don't think I saw one guy
No,
share that
neither.
and say anything about
But
it.
again, that's because of not wanting to be part of that conversation. It's
Yeah.
exactly going back. They don't want to be part of a video conversation. They want to be part of the real conversation.
Well,
When you
then
ask
this
them
is the
face to
point,
face.
though. The mayor has to think of a more impactful way of reaching out
mayor shared
to
it,
guys,
easy, man.
because you can reach out to you can reach out to women all you want, and we can share it, and that's great. But we're not the ones. Like, we're the victims. We're not the ones that are doing it. So
It's not for us, basically.
yeah, exactly. You're hitting the wrong audience here because you need something that is gonna.
Okay,
But
you
for
know,
all we know, it might be
resonate.
relatable to men. Maybe a lot of people
Yeah.
do have that internal struggle, but it isn't vocalized, so we would never know because, as we said, they keep their opinions to themselves, which is part of the problem. But
Yeah.
maybe they will then relate to that and that internal struggle, and
and start talking.
and start to. I mean, obviously, I don't know. I don't
So
know the extent of it.
Do
but-
you
nice.
think that there is a way for social media to help to get across the whole issue to do with violence against women? You do think that maybe people of higher followers or
I mean, yeah, for sure. People have seen what happened to Mason Greenwood. Is that his last? I don't know his first
the
name.
footballer.
Yeah.
Mason Greenwood.
Trash.
Yeah.
People have seen
You're done.
what's happened to him, and he's a massive
Yeah.
example of what can happen when you get caught.
yeah, I do think
Which, let's be
that-
real, a lot of that stuff happens and they don't get caught.
Yeah.
But that's quite a big. It can ruin your life career if you do this.
But
So-
that for me is so. That should not be the reason you don't do it. Like, it shouldn't be. You were about to lose your job. Like, it's not. I don't understand.
No, but I mean, if it takes that.
But
Yeah.
but then to me it's for the
Strict
I'll
wrong
take
measures.
anything if it's gonna stop other
Yeah.
people getting, other women, whatever, getting
Yeah.
physically.
Saving our
But again,
women.
abuse
bare
some.
minimum. Hey, you lost your job. You shouldn't do that to women. No, you shouldn't do it because it's wrong. I don't
It's
know.
wrong. But anyway, this was Capital Convo with Laura, Danny, and Bea. And we hope you've enjoyed. Please watch the rest of the podcast that we have. Listen on any platforms that you have podcasts on. And we look forward to talking to you again next time. Thanks,
Yeah.
guys.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned for more.
Bye.
Bye.
And that's on Capco.